I have to be honest. When I first saw the folder for today's deep dive, I made a pretty big assumption. It was labeled CorkMan.
Right.
And I immediately thought, okay, a mascot,
Yeah.
you know, some fun local character. Maybe a guy in a foam suit at a hurling match or something.
It's a completely reasonable assumption. The name itself, CorkMan, it sounds friendly. It sounds like a local superhero or maybe a tourism campaign.
Exactly. But then I opened the files, and instead of, cartoon sketches, I found what looked like military-grade software specifications.
Yes.
We're talking governance standards, automation spines, something called canonical law.
Yeah.
It reads less like a creative brief and more like the Constitution for a very small, very strict country.
It really does. And that's the core contradiction here, isn't it? You have this idea for a creative project, a figure that's supposed to represent a city's spirit.
Yeah.
But the machinery running it is just so cold and rigid and incredibly precise. We're looking at documents with names like Corkman Spine 006. It's bureaucracy for art.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We aren't really here to talk about a character in the usual sense. We're here to unpack a system.
A system, yes.
A system designed to manufacture authenticity with, and this is their phrase, machine-enforceable rigor. We've got everything from visual grounding to coloring ledgers. So let's start at the beginning. Who, or maybe what, is CorkMan?
That is the big question. And the documentation, specifically this canon authority statement, is incredibly careful about the answer. First rule, if you're looking for a hero, you're in the wrong place.
He is not a superhero.
Definitely not.
I was struck by the words they use. He's a recorded presence, a civic constant. It feels so detached.
It's extremely deliberate. A superhero has agency, Heroes save people, they stop bad guys, they have a character arc. Corkman does none of that.
The documents are very clear on this. He observes, he does not intervene.
Exactly. He's not there to save the cat from the tree. He's just there to witness the fact that the cat is, in fact, in the tree.
Which brings us to the no origin rule. I mean, in almost every story, the origin is everything. You need the radioactive spider, the exploding planet.
Right, you need the why.
But here, they call an origin story a hard canon breach.
It's an ontological stance, really. The document says, Corkman does not enter the record, he exists within it. If you explain where he came from, you diminish him. You turn him into just another character with a backstory.
You make him smaller.
By denying him an origin, the system makes him more like a force of nature. He just is.
It gives him this almost ghostly quality. But what's interesting is that while his history is a void, his physical form is hyper-specific. He is materially cork.
Yes, and this isn't a metaphor. This is where the technical constraints really start to ground the whole concept. He's not a guy in a suit. He is sculpturally made of cork.
The visual specs are so detailed, blocky, geometric. They even specify matte and visibly textured.
It's about giving him weight, and that physical reality is reinforced by his behavior.
The no smile rule, that seems to be the one they enforce the most.
Minimal, neutral, calm. That's the mandate.
It's so strange. I mean, CorkMan Visual 003 is incredibly strict. No anger, no fear, and absolutely, positively no smiling. Why? Why is that lack of emotion so important?
Well, think about it. If he smiles, he's approving of what he sees. If he frowns, he's judging it. He becomes a person with an opinion.
And the goal is for him to be a witness, not a commentator.
Exactly. He reacts to headlines, but the docs say he reacts to the language of the news, not the tragedy itself. If he stays neutral, you, the viewer, project your own feelings onto him.
Yeah.
He becomes a vessel.
So we have this neutral, blocky cork figure. But a character needs a setting. And this is where the visual grounding standard comes in. Honestly, this document, CorkMan Auth 002, it feels like a direct attack on how AI usually generates images.
Oh, it is. It's an anti-drift measure. And you have to understand a little bit about how models like Midjourney work to see why this is so important.
Drift. That's the key word. They seem terrified of what they call generic Ireland.
Because it's a huge problem. You type Ireland into an AI and what do you get?
Green hills, thatched cottages, maybe a leprechaun.
The postcard version. It's the statistical average of all the tourist photos and movies in its training data. It's a fantasy.
So this governance system is built to kill that on arrival.
Immediately. They have a binding rule. It says, and I'm paraphrasing here, if a scene could plausibly be Dublin or Galway or just anywhere in Ireland, it fails.
It has to be Cork.
Undeniably Cork, and they don't leave that to chance. They have mandatory anchors.
Right. Shandon, the church with the four-faced clock?
The River Lee, but specifically the K's and bridges or, Patrick Street. The system is forcing the AI to overfit to a very specific geography.
The part that made me laugh but also made perfect sense was the weather law.
Ah,
It says
yes.
the default atmosphere has to be overcast or broken cloud and post-rain dampness.
It's brilliant, though, isn't it? It's forcing a kind of truth into the machine. AI wants to make things pretty. It defaults to golden hour lighting.
But the document literally says sunlight is permitted rarely and must not read Mediterranean.
It insists on wet cobblestones and damp stone because Cork is a river city in Ireland. It's damp. It forces the AI to generate something that feels real to a local, not something that looks nice to a tourist.
It creates a texture, a grittiness you just don't see in most AI art. And then they double down on the mood with the no people rule.
Which is smart for two reasons. One, technically, AI is still pretty bad at generating crowds. You get weird faces, extra fingers.
Yeah, uncanny valley problem.
Right, so banning people solves that. But thematically, it makes CorkMan a solitary observer. It's just him in the city. It becomes more profound, more artistic.
So we know who he is, and we know where he is. A silent Cork statue on a damp, empty street in Cork. But how do they actually make this? Because looking at Corkman Spine 006, this is not just someone typing prompts into ChatGPT.
No, not at all. And this is probably the most important part of the whole system for anyone interested in the future of media. This is what they call governed execution. They've built an automation spine.
The spine, it sounds so ominous.
It's basically an assembly line for media. The document talks about node contracts. Every single step of the process, from the idea to the final image, is a distinct node.
Intake, policy, execution. It breaks creativity down into logical steps.
And the key concept here is auditability. There's a line that says, if evidence does not exist, the run did not happen.
That's a huge statement for a creative project. They care more about the proof that the image was made correctly than the image itself.
Because that's how they prevent the drift. That's how they maintain quality control. The spine creates a canonical envelope of evidence to keep the AI on the rails.
So let's walk through it. Say the AI tries to generate an image of CorkMan smiling in front of the Eiffel Tower. What happens?
That's where the policy layer, or POL, kicks in. These are automated checks. POL 002 checks the anchors. It sees the Eiffel Tower, not Shandon. That's a fail.
And what about the smile?
That's POL 003. It checks constraints. Is he smiling? Fail. Is the sun shining too brightly? Fail.
And if it fails?
The routing layer hits the kill switch. It terminates the output. The document says there is no silent acceptance. It doesn't try to fix it. It just kills the run. It guarantees that nothing gets out unless it passes every single rule.
Wow. It's like having a lawyer and an engineer screaming, "That's not compliant," over the artist's shoulder.
In a way, yes, but it makes the output defensible. Every image is recognizably, defensibly CorkMan. It turns prompt engineering into actual engineering. You're not rolling the dice, you're running a script.
Yeah, and this machine, it's not just making JPEGs. They're building a physical product. CorkMan Flat Plan 005 describes this book that's, well, something else.
It's an immutable architecture. They treat the physical book not as a layout, but as a rigid structure that cannot be changed.
The length is locked, 140 to 145 pages. The section order is locked. Editorial, coloring rules, then cards.
The cards are where it gets really interesting.
I know, I saw that and thought, wait, is this a book or a game?
It's both. Sections 4, 5, and 6 are card decks printed on perforated paper inside the book.
And the document makes a huge deal about the act of tearing them out. It says the book is designed to remain coherent after the user removes the cards.
Section 7, the record remains. It's brilliant product design. Usually if you tear pages out of a book, you've ruined it. Here, the destruction is part of the experience. You tear out the game, but the record, the art and the stories, stays on your shelf, intact.
The book sheds a layer, but keeps its core. And this is part of their annualization strategy.
The structural lock, the layout logic is fixed. So next year, they just swap in new headlines and images. The spine can automatically generate the print-ready PDF because it knows exactly where everything goes. It removes the human layout artist almost entirely.
It's so efficient, but it feels so cold. Even the fun parts are regulated. I was looking at CorkMan Color 004, the standard for the coloring book section. I mean, it's a coloring book. How hard can that be?
Apparently very hard. It's an engineering standard for line art.
It has an eligibility test. An image only becomes a coloring page if the silhouette is still readable in outline.
That goes back to his material reality.
Mm.
He's blocky, geometric. If you remove the color, he has to still look like CorkMan, not a blob.
And prohibited complexity. I love this. If a page requires magnification to color, it fails. The goal is participation without fatigue.
Participation without fatigue. It's such a great user experience principle. They want it to be calming, not stressful.
But then you see the restrictions on shading. No shading, no hatching, no gray tones.
Because he's a statue. Statues have contours, not gradients. They are enforcing the canon, the core truth of the character, even in a black and white line drawing. Every single line has to reinforce that he is made of cork.
It really hammers home how everything is connected. The no shading rule in the coloring book ties back to the ontology document. The damp weather ties to the anti-generic policy.
It's a completely holistic system, which is so different from how we normally think about creativity, which is all about freedom, thinking outside the box.
But this is thinking inside a very, very tight machine-enforced box.
Right. But look at the result. Because the constraints are so strict, must be cork, must be damp, no smiling, you get an identity that is incredibly strong. You could spot a CorkMan image from a mile away.
The bureaucracy creates the soul.
Bureaucratic creativity. That's a perfect way to put it. The constraints guarantee consistency.
So, if we put this all together,
Yeah.
we have a cork figure who witnesses the news, managed by an automation spine that audits every pixel, and lives in a book designed to be torn apart.
And he just stands there on a wet key in cork, watching the world go by while a machine watches him to make sure he doesn't smile.
It's actually kind of haunting when you put it like that.
It is. The final thought in the canon document really stuck with me. It says, CorkMan is not explained, CorkMan is not resolved, CorkMan is present and remains so.
Present and remains so. It's almost existential, like the weather. It just happens.
And it poses this huge question about the future of media, right? Are we moving to a world where authenticity isn't about human touch, but about human governance over an AI? Is this how we stop AI from turning everything into a generic mush?
It's not about prompting, make me a cool picture. It's about building a machine that can only make this one specific cool picture forever without drifting.
Exactly. The difference between an artist and an architect. CorkMan isn't drawn, he's engineered. And maybe that's the only way to keep something real in a synthetic world.
Well, next time I'm in Cork on a rainy Tuesday, I'll definitely be looking for a blocky silhouette down by the river. But I won't expect him to say hello.
And you'll know if the weather's nice, he won't be there at all.
That is the law. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into the strange, regulated world of CorkMan. We'll catch you on the next one.